after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right.
Personal foul, 69. Offense. He was giving them the business. We played it down.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a hint of tattoo?
Well, you gotta get a head tattoo. You gotta shave your
get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
And a personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Well, good evening, everyone. AFR back on your radio. Jay Smith, Bradley Kendall is joining us now back in the studio. Evan McDowell. Guys, College Football Playoff Selection Show is on the TV right here in the studio. So much to talk about. Clemson, South Carolina was this past weekend. It's conference championship week upcoming for the Power 5 conference. Actually, there's, I want to say, 10 conference championships this weekend. You've got 20 teams, the first time ever that every conference.
Evan, you going to watch them all to prepare to watch every Bowl Mania game this year?
Oh, you already know. I am locked and loaded for the Valero Alamo Bowl, the San Diego Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Just give them all to me right now.
You know, it's really hard to tell that Kirk's an Ohio State grad when he's got like every single Ohio State jersey he's ever worn behind him.
Well, here we go. The rankings are out. They're coming out right now. They just did 21 through 25, but let's throw it to Bradley real quick. Bradley, after further review.
I'm going to quote the name of the show of one of my favorite shows of all time back in Charlotte, The Mac Attack, in reference to Mac Brown coming back into the college football world, leaving the studio and getting back on the sidelines.
Donning your favorite color, Carolina blue.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And as a longtime Duke fan, I'm hoping his first 2 years go just as they did back when he used to coach back in 1988 when they both went 1-10 at UNC. So we shall see. I think this is an upgrade over Larry Fedora for sure. But Jay, thoughts? Mac Brown back in the coaching realm?
Dabo talked about it today at his press conference. Obviously, he was like, I hate it for Larry Fedora, who has been at UNC for
about 5 to 6.
Is it 5 or 6 years?
About too long. 2 years too long.
A couple years too long.
But and Dabo's point was, the crazy thing about coaching is 3-4 years ago they were playing Clemson in an ACC championship, and like Dabo pointed out, hey, that team, yes, is a very different team than the team that Larry was coaching last weekend, but that team really took Clemson to the wire. And
that team benefited so much off that easy schedule.
It
you
did,
can't deny that. They were like the Miami team.
I'll let you take that up with Dabo. Like Dabo said, he felt like they were a competitive team. Long story short, 3-4 years later, short time span, Larry Fedora is now out at UNC. I don't really know. Mac Brown coming back to coaching, it kind of reminds me of Herm Edwards a little bit.
Yeah, well, but Herm didn't have such the college success that Mac Brown did, though. Mac Brown's an all-time college coach.
He is. And do you really think, though, that UNC is the right fit for Mac Brown?
I think it is, but I think he's a little too old at this
point. It's a big name for the ACC coaching carousel.
Huge for the ACC, huge for the Coastal. I do think, though, at 67, it's a little hard to kind of completely change around a program when you're that old. You're not dealing with, a lot of skill across the board on that team right now. It's going to take a lot, and you got to think by the time he even gets this thing off the ground, he'll be in his 70s. So if I'm UNC, I want to hire a guy as a coordinator that I know can take over in probably the near future, because Brown's probably only got, you think at most 8 to 10 years?
Yeah, probably not too much longer.
Snyder's in his 80s, so you never know.
No, not too much longer than that. You would guess.
And Florida's sorry, I got to interrupt real quick because we're seeing the rankings.
Yeah, I'm watching the rankings come right now.
Are you kidding me that Florida's a top 10 team right now?
You've got two. So you've got LSU at 10. They're 9-3. You've got Florida at 9. They're 9-3. So 2 3-loss SEC teams in the top 10.
That is utterly ridiculous.
UCF does jump up 1 to number 8 at 11-0, and then Michigan dropped 3 after their abysmal performance against Ohio State.
You're going to punish Washington State 5 spots for losing in a near blizzard to Washington, who's now in the top 15. That's insane. Come on.
Washington team that beat Washington State.
That's what I'm saying, but Washington was a top 15 team at the time, and they lost in a blizzard, and you're going to punish them 5 spots?
Well,
come on.
I don't know. We got Alabama in at 1, Clemson at 2. Those are the obvious.
There.
And then I think we would expect to see Notre Dame at 3, and Georgia, I imagine, would be 4.
I would imagine
so,
but the committee might mess around and put Oklahoma at 4. You never know.
There's the Irish at 3, so we've got a trio of spots left up on the board. They may take a minute to talk about it, but Bradley, shifting away from college football playoff talk for a second, going back to the conference championship.
Georgia is at 4.
Georgia's at 4?
Yep.
Okay, Georgia's at 4. So really, as we go into conference championship weekend, this SEC championship, we know already, as they announced Oklahoma at 5, that the number 1 team or the number 4 team is going to be on the losing end at the end of the weekend. Most people would probably pick the Bulldogs to lose.
Yes, I'm obviously going to be picking Alabama in this game. I think, as we've seen the last couple of weeks, trends fold. I really think Georgia's kind of closing the gap a little bit on Alabama. Georgia started to play a lot better the last few weeks, and I think Georgia might give them a game. I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout, but I do think Alabama will end up winning. But Georgia's finding their stride late in the year. Jake Fromm has recovered from that really bad performance they had against LSU a while back. And, I think the familiarity here is going to help Georgia.
If they lose, Evan, if Georgia loses, you've got an Oklahoma now at 5. They're going to play Texas in the Big 12 Championship. You got an Ohio State team at 6. They jumped up 4 spots after they thrashed Michigan. I think most people picked them to probably land at the 6th spot, and they're going to play Northwestern. In my opinion, I know Bradley disagrees, but in my opinion, I think Ohio State has a better chance of beating Northwestern than Oklahoma does against Texas. I guess my question to you and to both of you, if Georgia loses to Alabama, we'll assume that's the given in this scenario, and Ohio State beats Northwestern, and Oklahoma beats Texas, but it's a close game. Does Ohio State leapfrog?
No. If Oklahoma is currently ranked above Ohio State, there is 5 and 6. I think if Oklahoma beats Texas, that's a better win for Oklahoma.
Okay. So you're saying that it's in order for Ohio State to get into the playoff, as it sits right now, Georgia and Oklahoma have to lose.
Yeah, I think so.
Evan, what do you think?
I think that as it currently stands, Oklahoma's got the best chance to make it in regardless of like how they beat Texas and how Ohio State beats Northwestern, because I think at the end of the day, Oklahoma's the better team and the better matchup with Bama. Ohio State could beat Northwestern 177-0, and Oklahoma could beat Texas 27-20. And I still think Oklahoma gets in because you cannot lose to Purdue by 29 God-blessed points and still make the college football playoff. You can't lose to anybody by 29 points to make the college football playoff, much less a middle-of-the-road Big Ten team.
So does that mean that, again, sounds like both of y'all are in agreement, myself as well. It sounds like the only variable left in this college football playoff race is whether or not Georgia actually can beat Alabama in the SEC championship. Because if Georgia loses, I mean, we just assume at this point, Notre Dame obviously they're in, Clemson beats Pitt. But if Alabama loses to Georgia, where do they fall? Are they going to be 3? Are they going to be 4? I mean, we assume Georgia's in, right? But where does Alabama go? Who are they going to play? Are they going to play the 2 seed that would now become Notre Dame, and Clemson would play Georgia, the 1 and 4 seed?
I think if Alabama were to lose, I think you probably put Clemson at 1. You
put Notre Dame at 2.
I think you vault Georgia over Notre Dame. I really do. With the fact that Notre Dame's not playing conference championship, the fact that Georgia would have beaten the number 1 team in the country.
But it wouldn't matter because Notre Dame and Georgia would play each other regardless.
Of course, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter. The numbers wouldn't matter. But you have Clemson and Alabama.
I think you'd have Clemson and Alabama. I think it would be just like last year. I really do.
Interesting. Do you think Clemson would pick Miami, or I guess they would pick Miami over
They're going to
Dallas.
pick Miami for
pick
sure.
Miami.
Yeah, if they can play.
I told y'all this before the show. They don't get a pick. The College Football Playoff Committee assigns it.
You know what?
Either way, they would end up in Miami.
You know what is interesting right now with the top 4? What we have right now, 3 of those top 4 were in the top 4 preseason. So I mean, they've been right on par pretty much the entire year.
It stands to what I thought was going to happen about midway through the season, where we were going to have 2 Power 5 conferences represented, the ACC, the SEC, and then an independent. Again, if Georgia beats Alabama this weekend, that's your top 4. You're just going to reshuffle the order. But if Alabama prevails against Georgia, presumably Oklahoma, if they get past Texas, would be knocked into that 4th spot, and we'd have 3 Power 5 conferences
I think it's arguable that if Georgia were to lose to Alabama and let's say Oklahoma loses to Texas, I think the committee might still put Georgia in over Ohio State. I really do, because Georgia would have lost to Alabama if it's a relatively close game. And back to that 29-point loss, I don't think the committee wants to see them in. I really don't.
I would think that you would need teams 4 through 6 to all have 2 losses to consider putting a 2-loss team in at this point.
Yeah.
But with the way we're predicting things to shake out right now,
UCF would be very
you're gonna end up with the 3 undefeated teams 1 through 3. Like, that's a given. We're assuming Clemson beats Pitt. We're assuming Alabama beats Georgia, both of which are pretty darn likely. So that 4th team is going to end up being the best 1-loss team out of teams 4 through 6 right now. But if all of them somehow lose, then you take the best 2-loss team. And it's not going to be Ohio State because they got blown out by Purdue, and if you lose in the Big Ten championship game, you're completely out of it. We're not worried about you. So then it really comes down to Georgia, who lost the SEC championship game, and it comes down to Oklahoma, who lost to Texas twice.
You may be able to, in this scenario, in this year, 2-loss team, you're out no matter what. What's really messing up the potential for a 2-loss team to make it, I think the only legitimate 2-loss team that could ever make the playoff is Alabama, is a undefeated independent in Notre Dame.
You don't think Georgia 2 losses has any chance?
No.
Really?
No.
Not if Oklahoma and or Ohio State win.
Well,
if I'm Georgia, if I'm Georgia this weekend, and I'm pretty darn sure I'm not going to beat Alabama, then I am all of a sudden going to be the biggest Northwestern and the biggest Texas Longhorn fan you have ever seen. Because the only way 2-loss Georgia gets in is if Ohio State and Oklahoma both have 2 losses as well.
So if all 3 of those teams lose, where does UCF end up? Now, they may not be in the top 4, but they're going to be 5 or 6.
Well, the problem is UCF doesn't have a quarterback right now.
I was going to say, UCF ends up in a New Year's Six Bowl and beside Mackenzie Milton's hospital bed with Dawson Prayers going up.
It's completely disrespectful to UCF to put potentially a 2-loss team in over them. I think that...
It would have been more disrespectful if they had Mackenzie Milton in, though.
I understand, but still, you have to respect the fact that they finished the season 12-0. Well, they still have one more game to play, correct?
They're going to play Memphis. You presumably think they'll beat Memphis, but I think even if Milton's in, I still think
are they 11-0 or 12-0? Because I think they had a game that was canceled, rescheduled.
Technically 11-0. They're only at 8, 7, 8.
Yeah, 8.
They're only at 8. So to make that
a lot of ground to make up.
To make that big of a vault by beating Memphis is just not.
I believe
that's
as high as they got last year.
Now if they can, if they win out this year and then potentially beat like LSU or someone in whatever bowl game they play in, they'll probably start in the top 10 next year. You would think.
Predictably, though,
possibly.
What we assume to happen, and what ultimately I think we all want to happen, Alabama beats Georgia, don't really care what the margin of victory is. They stay a solid number 1. Clemson beats Pitt, you don't really care about what the margin of victory is. They stay a solid number 2. Notre Dame sleeps in on Saturday morning, watches all these games from home, stays at 3. And then you want Oklahoma to beat Texas so that Alabama and Oklahoma can play the Cotton Bowl, which I think is a matchup that people would be pretty interested in. And then you get Clemson, Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. Again, another matchup people are pretty interested in. And it just makes life and decision-making a lot easier for all of us and for the College Football Playoff Committee. The only way you're going to get a monkey wrench thrown in that scenario is if Georgia wins, if Oklahoma wins, if Ohio State wins, then you got to make some kind of decision. Oh, and then wait, here's Alabama. They lost.
So is Alabama a lock?
Yes,
I think
yes,
so. They're either going to be 1 or 4.
They're not going to go farther than
if it's a close loss. Now, if Georgia beats them by
they're still gonna get
4 or 5 touchdowns, then maybe they're at 5 on the outside looking in. But I think it's the same as last year.
Think about it. They didn't even win their division, and they got in and then won the whole thing. So the committee's going to put Alabama in because Alabama draws eyeballs to college football. That is, again, it's a business, amateur sports, but still, they're gonna put the teams in that are gonna draw in the most money and bring in the most attention.
Can we go back to Mac Brown for a second? I know both of y'all said he was too old to be doing this job. You know who else is 67 years old?
Nick Saban.
Yeah, exactly. Not nearly too old to be doing this job.
Yeah, but to start a program, though, that's what I'm
he's
saying.
starting from scratch. Mac Brown is starting over.
If Mac Brown was 63 when he came in, I'd be like, oh, this is fine.
How long is his contract? Does anybody know? What's his contract?
I have no idea. No, I know that
I would imagine it would be at least 5 years.
The buyout for Fedora is 4 years. I don't know if that has anything to do with it at all. I know probably Brown's at least 4 to 5, I would think.
It would have to be at least 4 or 5 years. I feel like for him to feel.
Now, how long do you think he ends up coaching for? Because you gotta think that within a couple of years, UNC will
They'll probably have a handful. I think they may get a couple 9-win seasons. Maybe they go crazy and get a 10-win season. I think that's probably as good as he's ever going to get them. But they'll probably be around middle of the pack. Maybe they'll be like a dark horse coastal contender for Clemson to worry about.
How about next year? They could win the coastal next year. If they find a quarterback?
5-year contract.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, though, I think this Mac Brown hire is more of a stepping stone for North Carolina. I think they're bringing in
credibility. Is that what you're saying?
Not even that.
It's a credible name.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. I think it's a fine hire, and you could put a sack of potatoes with a headset on, and it'd probably do better than Larry Fedora has past 2 years.
But he did get him to the ACC championship.
Come on, they didn't play anyone.
No, but what I'm saying is, you hire Mac Brown, you leave him there for 3 to 5 years. You might not fulfill the whole 5-year contract, but essentially what he's doing is setting the program up for the future so you can hire somebody young and promising like a Jeff Brom at Purdue, or heck, even a Chad Morris, or maybe Cliff Kingsbury if he still doesn't have a job, like somebody young who can take over the program from Mac Brown and make them better. I think Mac Brown is just in here to kind of play cleanup, to kind of pick the pieces up of what Fedora essentially messed up, bring them together, and then kind of set the foundation for whoever the next young guy is that's going to come in and take this program to where they think they deserve to be, if that makes sense.
I'd argue that's not true. I think they want Brown to be a home run hitter right now. I think it's with the same thing with Les Miles at Kansas. Les Miles is not there to be a stepping stone at Kansas.
Well, Les Miles is different, though. Like you said, Mac Brown is older, and if he'd been hired 4 years ago, then that would be the kind of coach they're looking for. But because they're hiring him now, and because they know that his time is fairly limited unless he's like Bill Snyder and just decides to never stop coaching ever for any reason.
Happen.
Which could.
Yeah.
But I don't really think
I don't
think that's what North Carolina is assuming right now. I think they're assuming that he's going to get them past this troublesome part now, lead them close to the promised land. He's not going to get them there, but then the next guy will. I think he's just kind of the setup guy, and then the closer's coming in later.
Somebody from the 864 texted in a little bit of a plot twist here and said that, and this is actually interesting, how the committee could change their minds after this weekend and bump Notre Dame if Oklahoma and OSU win.
Bump Notre Dame out of the playoff?
Bump them
no,
out of the top four.
I mean, the only thing that they do that, the only reason they would ever do that is to make a statement and say, hey, you need to win a conference championship. That'd be the only remotely close reason that they would consider moving Notre Dame out. I know they didn't look it against USC, but Notre Dame's in the playoff.
How mad would you be as a Notre Dame fan
God.
to have been number 3 for the last 6 weeks?
Wait. Well, didn't it happen to, what was it, TCU?
TCU, but they weren't undefeated.
They were 4, right?
TCU and Baylor finished at 5 and 6. The week after one, I think it was TCU
wasn't
was 4.
Even 5. They were 6.
And Baylor was 5.
What was it? TCU was 4. They did not
3.
play. No, they were 4.
They were 3. They were 3 at the time and got bumped all the way down.
But they also had a loss. And the Big 12, that was before the Big 12 had a conference championship game anyway.
They didn't play that weekend, correct? They did not play that weekend.
They beat Iowa State in the last week of the year and got bumped from 3 down to 6.
Well, because they didn't have a championship game. That's why the Big 12 decided, hey, we probably need to do this just for the sake of actually getting a team in the playoff.
And honestly,
enter Oklahoma.
I think the Big 12 is doing it right. I think with the way they have it scheduled right now, where the top 2 teams play, because let's be honest, I think most of the ACC wants to see Clemson maybe play Syracuse again, or even Ohio State play another a Michigan or somebody like that, or Michigan or Penn State.
Yeah, but the second best team in the ACC is still significantly worse than the second best team in any other conference.
I just think it makes sense.
Any other conference.
No, I agree. I agree
top
with you.
2 teams.
I like that premise.
And it was Tiger Trey that texted in, and he made a point that he feels like it's a smart move for the NCAA to take that money away from Notre Dame and give it more towards a conference. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think anybody really thinks it's realistic. Because of the fact Notre Dame's undefeated, they don't have a loss.
It'd be different if Notre Dame had a loss. If they had a loss,
Notre Dame is at 3. They're at 3. They're not at 4. So, I don't know. We got to take a quick break. Up next, we're going to break down some games from this past weekend. Clemson, South Carolina, got a lot to talk about. That's next. Stick with us.
You have cracks in your driveway, sidewalk, or settling pool decks? Why tear it out when you can lift it? Canty Foundation Specialists can raise concrete slabs back to its original position using our patented polylevel process. Call Canty today at 864-475-1671. Don't replace it, raise it. 475-1671 or visit us at cantyfoundationsc.com.
Absolute Waste Management is your answer to a clutter-free home, garage, attic, yard, and more. They handle getting rid of the junk you no longer need or want. All you have to do is call. Absolute Waste Management offers competitive pricing, no hidden fees, and get the job done quick. Call today for a clean-out or junk removal service quote. Make the call. You'll be glad you did. 864-266-7131 and visit AbsoluteWasteMGMT.com for more information.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben. I'm a personal trainer at Gold's Gym in Cherrydale and Greenville. Here to talk to you today about Optinos. It's a nitric oxide booster, all natural, clinically tested. I'm taking it. My clients have been taking it, seeing incredible results. Increases in your leg press, arm size, your bench press. You need to get your own bottle today. It's good for increasing your recovery, your endurance, and making sure that you have better lean muscle gains. Go to upstatemuscle.com. That's upstatemuscle.com. Get your bottle today.
Do you have a love-hate relationship with your credit card? You love the freedom and convenience the credit card gives you, but you hate the high interest rates? And let's face it, they're high. 17, 18, even 20% APR? That's pretty outrageous. But with Lightstream's credit card consolidation loan, rather than throwing your money away on high interest payments, you can get a much lower rate, as low as 6.14% APR with AutoPay. And today, if you want an even lower rate, apply at lightstream.com/radio for a special discount. Plus, with Lightstream, your rate is fixed, so as rates continue to rise, your rates won't budge. They'll stay low. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000, which means you can pay off your credit card and start paying an interest rate you can really love, thanks to Lightstream.
Ready to start saving? Apply now at lightstream.com/radio. That's right. Get your extra discount by applying today at lightstream.com/radio. That's lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.5% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
Westminster Vision is now opening a third location on Highway 28 in Pendleton next to State Farm Insurance. This new office will offer even more state-of-the-art medical eye care along with the professional one-on-one eyeglass service we are so proud of. There's a large selection of frames as well as all types of contact lenses, including specialty and custom designs. We'd like to thank our patients and customers who have made this possible. Come by and see us or call 654-4141 for an appointment.
The Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, or JDRF, is the leading global organization funding type 1 diabetes research. Their mission is to accelerate life-changing breakthroughs to cure, prevent, and treat type 1 diabetes and its complications. Your Pie of Clemson is sponsoring a benefit night for JDRF on Wednesday, November 28th, and will match your donation dollar for dollar. And if you donate $10 or more, you will receive a free combo with your meal. Help fund research for type 1 diabetes at Your Pie of Clemson.
Are you thinking of selling your business, but you're not sure what to do? With a strong economy, now may be the perfect time to sell. Get a free, no-obligation business marketing assessment from Mark Griffin at Sperry Commercial Global Affiliates. Sperry is the trusted global company, and Mark Griffin is the trusted local broker who maximizes his resources to ensure the best offer for your business. Call Mark today for that free business assessment at 315-3734. 315-3734.
And now, back to After Further Review.
Welcome back. Thanks for spending your Tuesday evening with us. Different time. Obviously, the game last night, men's basketball game against Nebraska. What a thriller that was. Clemson
God, 2 straight losses to Nebraskan teams.
Almost pulled away, but we were rescheduled to tonight. And then another programming note, we will be back on Mondays here starting next week, but we will be at the 8 o'clock time slot. Tiger Calls is moving from 8 p.m. forward an hour to 7 p.m., so we are switching spots with Tiger Calls.
Before we get to a call real quick, I do want to mention, I was reading an article about Mac Brown earlier, and they actually interviewed Mac Brown's wife, too, because they were just like, hey, how do you feel about your husband getting back into the coaching business? And she said, well, I told him if he was going to accept an offer, he could only make us move to 3 different places. She said, Hawaii, the Bahamas, or Chapel Hill. And look where he ended up.
Interesting.
The third one.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to Ed. He wants to talk a little bit college football playoff with us. How you doing this evening, Ed?
Fellas, I'm doing good. I apologize. I've got you on speakerphone. If it's a problem, let me know. I'm wearing one of those hats you wear at the North Pole. So
it's a little chilly out there tonight. Yeah. It's a little chilly.
It's a lot chilly.
It's tough for us Southerners.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I hope Notre Dame gets in, period. And I'll tell you why. I think they're going to get drilled by whoever they played. And hopefully down the road, that will force them into a conference. Hopefully, it will also expand it to 8 teams. 8 teams is perfect. 5 are at-large bids for the conference or 5 bids for the conference champions, 3 at-large bids. Now, that does add a twist to it. You could have a Northwestern beating Ohio State and get an automatic bid.
See, that's why I think the divisions in these conferences are just meaningless. I think, like the Big 12 does, I think you should have the top 2 teams play for the right to win the conference. Then you'd be guaranteed a top 10 team per se in the playoff.
What about the fact that you're already playing 12 regular season games? Then you tack on a conference championship, which you're using in this case as an automatic qualifier. And then you're going to have to play, I would assume, another 2 to 3 games to determine a national champion. All of a sudden, you're playing 16, maybe 17 games. I think in that scenario, and again, I would like to see the playoff expanded at some point, but you're going to have to cut back on the number of regular season games. You're going to have to.
Drop an OC game. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Quit scheduling, and look, I understand.
But teams like scheduling those games. That's the thing is schools like Clemson, Alabama, I mean, all those schools enjoy scheduling those FCS opponents because in a way they are tune-up games for the program.
And I'll play devil's advocate here for you. Take the NFL, for instance. Some of the games towards the end of the year don't matter. I mean, if you're gonna expand it to 8 teams, you basically look at this SEC championship game and go, well, whoever loses, you're still probably going to get in, so why does this game even matter?
Ed, do you think if we got rid of a few conference games, that would help?
You know what? It's more of a question. Maybe we should eliminate the conference championship, and whoever is the number 1 team just goes. If you want to keep the conference championship, that's fine. But I think if you expand an 18 playoff, you've got to eliminate the 12th game. Now, I understand why Citadel, Furman, Wofford, etc. want to schedule a game with us because, A, sometimes they're competitive, and B, or in the Citadel's case, sometimes they win. But it's big revenue for them, and I get it. But drop one of the games. You can keep the conference championships. If you want to have some sort of a clause in your conference deal where, okay, Northwestern beats Ohio State, they win the conference championship with a 8-4 record, you want to recognize the higher ranked team. So be it. 5 at-large bids for the 5 major conferences, or 5 bids, excuse me, I keep saying that, and then 3 at-large bids, which, if you want to take, whoever, so be it. But that opens the door for somebody like a Central Florida, a Notre Dame. That's why I want Notre Dame in it. I want whoever plays these guys to just absolutely drill them, because you either need to be in a conference or not.
Well, I think
simple. You can't pull this independent stuff.
In Notre Dame's case, obviously, they're an independent because of their television contract with NBC. Because for every other varsity sport, they're an ACC school for all intents and purposes. So like I said, appreciate you taking the time to call in because I think you bring up some interesting points related to possibly future expansion of the playoff. But thanks for getting in with us.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I don't think you can get rid of the conference championships, though, because...
here's the thing.
Look,
Big 12 didn't have it a couple years ago, and it hindered them.
Yeah, but if you're a team like Georgia who's trying to get in, and you automatically give the bid to Alabama, well, if you're Georgia, you're like, well, we didn't even get the chance to play Alabama, so why should Bama automatically get in? We didn't even get the opportunity to show what we can do. That's why I wouldn't think it's fair to get rid of them.
Stick to the phone lines because we now have Clemson Dad on with us, a regular caller into AFR. Clemson Dad, we appreciate you calling in on our Tuesday night show. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. How are you?
It's not as chilly in the studio as it is outside, that's for sure.
No kidding. And the wind's been brutal all week.
Oh, it's terrible.
It is. Walking around campus today, it was cold.
Oh, yeah? This is a far out there kind of scenario about the college football playoff, and then I want to say something about the NFL too. But, what is there, like 124, 129 something, 129? Could you not, divide them up? This many on this side of the Mississippi River, this many on the other side of the Mississippi River, and make 4 divisions on each side. And then and let the computer figure it out. Take the human element out. and whoever's at the top of those divisions, they go to the championship. I know that's kind of weird, but you know what I'm saying?
I could see that.
It'd be more geographical. I don't know.
So
I do think that's why. I think that's why the committee liked the fact that Washington got in. What was it? 2 years ago, because they wanted to see the West Coast represented.
Well, that include everybody on the other side of Mississippi.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm trying to do.
I still think college football is just so biased towards the Southeast.
It's a Southern-centric sport.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you're big time. I mean, yes, the Big Ten. I'd say if I had to pick a conference outside of the South that had like premier schools, I'd probably go Big Ten. You got Michigan, you got Ohio State, you got Penn State, you got even Michigan State. Wisconsin.
Well, I think it's a great point that you bring up that football is a Southeast, a Southern,
by and large.
game.
I mean, again, there are plenty of other schools around the country that are great at football.
Yeah, and that's true. Just like there's good teams cross country who are good at lacrosse, but you don't see anybody from the state of Georgia or the state of Alabama winning the national championship in lacrosse because it's a northern sport.
Lacrosse is amazing.
Exactly. You got your outliers.
Your point. You got like Duke lacrosse in there.
I just think everybody's gripe is that the whole country doesn't get recognized, if you will.
And I don't think that's an unfair gripe. I mean, we talk about Pac-12 after dark all the time. And look, if you're the Pac-12, you're going to play the games that you want people to see are going to start at 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern. They're not kicking games off that people want to watch at 10:45 because you and I are not staying up until 2 a.m. to watch that game.
Yeah, and if you want to get recognized, play Auburn week 1. Maybe not lose the last week of the year. Win your conference. Have one loss. Get in the playoff. Then you'll get recognized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, but I'll jump to the NFL real quick, and I'll let you tell me what you think. Washington Redskins, I saw an article where they picked up Reuben Foster after he got arrested Saturday night down in Florida. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I don't know if I'd touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Or 39.5-foot pole for in Christmas season.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think he's still a bright young talent. I mean, he was one of the most standout linebackers we've seen in Alabama in a while. So I think maybe just a change of environment might be good for him. If this was his...
Reminds me of what the Cowboys did picking up Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
Left the Panthers.
And the Redskins did come out and say that he was not going to be allowed to play until the legal process had concluded.
Right. He's going to meet some criteria.
Yeah, they said you got to figure your life out off the field, and then we'll talk to you. But yeah, I think putting in a claim for him is not a bad idea from a talent perspective, at least. And then if he doesn't get his legal life figured out, then you just cut him. Like I don't have a problem with it.
I think it's like Josh Gordon with the Patriots almost. Just taking a chance, seeing if it works out. Maybe he'll change his off the field behavior. If not, hey, let him go.
Well, Josh's problem is the weed. This guy's a domestic abuse guy, so that's a little bit different, I guess, in the media.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Two guys that need some help, though, nonetheless.
Yep. All right, guys. Enjoyed talking.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Always appreciate you getting in, Clemson Dad. We got the phone lines are popping. And if you want to get in on the phone line, Bradley, what's that number again? Remind me of that number.
You're going to have to give me a second.
654.
There you go, Evan.
654-ROAR, 654-7627. Come on, Bradley.
There you go.
I recently put a password on my computer, man. I'm taking a little more time to get things.
Chad now. Chad from Easley is on with us, and he wants to talk a little bit of college football playoff. What you got for us, Chad?
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, man, no
Absolutely.
problem.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and
I
clear.
was wanting to, good deal, man. I was wanting to add in a little bit of something to the discussion earlier. I was listening to the caller that spoke about having the 5 automatic bids for the conferences and then the 3 at-larges, which I think is a great idea. I think that's out of all the different reform possibilities that keep getting floated around. To me, that seems like the one that makes the most sense. And I also like the idea about having to lose one of the games in the season so that it's not just extravagantly long of a season for the kids. But I was going to say I don't think though that solves all of the problems that we have. Because one of the problems that I keep hearing people talk about, and I tend to agree with as well, is the problem about the committee and the fact that the committee still has that human element where they're going into it and potentially, sort of manipulating the order and all that kind of thing. I think you would still have that with the 5 automatic bids and the 3 at-larges because you need somebody to come in there and tell me which conference champion is going to rank higher than another conference champion.
No, I think that's definitely true. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we wanted the committee in the first place, was because the BCS wasn't exactly doing a good job with that. I don't think it should be, like I said, I don't think if we still have these divisions the way they are and you could potentially have a 4-loss team get in, I don't think you need the automatic qualifier. I think the human element right now is enough.
And here's the thing, Chad. I mean, really, in my opinion, yes, I understand some people have beefs about the playoff and, they want it expanded. I mean, look, I think at some point we will see it expanded. I think 16s, maybe 8 in the future. I don't think it ever gets any bigger than 8 because eliminating one of those games in the regular season is going to cut into somebody's revenue. Some team that's scheduling that home game all of a sudden no longer has that 7th or 6th home game, and that significantly cuts into their revenue. And again, with the business of amateur sports and all that making money, that is something that you have to factor in because it's going to be more difficult for your fan base to travel to some location halfway across the country in a quarterfinal game, I guess is what it would be, rather than a game at home. So I think for right now, the 4-team playoff is probably what we're going to get for at least several more years. But as you mentioned, and the caller earlier mentioned, the 5-team automatic qualifier conference championship, it's best idea I've heard so far.
Well, I mean, too, there's one other thing also that I feel like could be a solution as well, and that would be to have that first round playoff game be a home game for the higher ranked team, rather than having it at a neutral site. I know that would cut into some of that bowl revenue, and I know they wanted to kind of keep some of that intact. But I mean, if you could have it to where in that quarterfinal, if you could have it to where the higher ranked team plays it as a home game. Then you could still make some money off of that, and it wouldn't be a total loss, in the revenue department. Because you do hate to see them lose money.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is you'd have such an advantage for like Alabama or just someone that has such a home field advantage throughout the year. And I personally, the one change I would make right off the bat is not mess with the playoff. How about get uniformity across how many conference games each team plays? Because I believe the SEC SEC only plays 8. The ACC only plays 8. Everyone else, I believe, plays 9. So I mean, that's already such an advantage right there that needs to be fixed immediately.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think that's a very good point. Well, anyway, thank you guys for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you getting in, Chad. Well, I think we got to run to a quick break here in a couple of seconds. We do have another caller on the line. We'll probably get to him after break. And then I think we will try and briefly touch on at least the South Carolina Clemson game and then go into some of the conference championship games more specifically, Bradley.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I know people are going to say that South Carolina gave us such a game, but we still won by 21. We'll get into more.
Hey, the fact that the 2 years prior they were outscored by us 90-17, and then all of a sudden they put up more points against us than any team since 2016. That was Virginia Tech, the ACC championship game. It is something to consider. But got to take a quick break. Final segment when we come back.
Over $14,000 off. Now that's what I'm talking about. Trucks cost less than Travelers Rest, where George Coleman Ford's offering a 2018 F-150 XLT with Chrome package, $51,100 MSRP. On sale at just $36,999. Not only that, they never had any dealer fees. That's George Coleman Ford and Travelers Rest, the Upstate's only Ford's President Award-winning dealership.
With approved credit, must finance with Ford Motor Credit. Good through January 2nd, 2019.
Do you have a love-hate relationship with your credit card? You love the freedom and convenience the credit card gives you, but you hate the high interest rates? And let's face it, they're high. 17, 18, even 20% APR? That's pretty outrageous. But with Lightstream's credit card consolidation loan, rather than throwing your money away on high interest payments, you can get a much lower rate, as low as 6.14% APR with autopay. And today, if you want an even lower rate, apply at lightstream.com/radio for a special discount. Plus, with Lightstream, your rate is fixed. So as rates continue to rise, your rates won't budge. They'll stay low. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000, which means you can pay off your credit card and start paying an interest rate you can really love, thanks to Lightstream.
Ready to start saving? Apply now at lightstream.com/radio. That's right. Get your extra discount by applying today at lightstream.com/radio. That's lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.5% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
College bowl season is almost here, and 105.5 The Roar WCCP brings you a complete rundown of all the games. Join us at Mellow Mushroom in Clemson, Wednesday, December 12th from 5 till 8. Mickey, Brad, Ben, Qualk, Kelly, and Walt will all weigh in on who'll take home a bowl win. One listener could win pizza for a year from Mellow Mushroom, or a cooler from Steve's Tire and Auto. Mellow Mushroom, Clemson, December 12th, 5 till 8, from 105.5 The Roar.
Hi, folks. Qualk here to tell you about my friends at Robinhood. What is Robinhood? Well, it's an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. They want to make financial services work for everyone, and not just the wealthiest among us. It's simple, it's intuitive. Other brokerages could charge up to $10 for every trade, but Robinhood doesn't charge commission trees. Trade stocks, keep all of your profits. With easy-to-understand charts and market data, you can place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. They make it so easy, and they let you learn how to invest as you build your portfolio. You can discover new stocks, track your favorite companies with a personalized news feed. Right now, Robinhood's giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build a portfolio. Sign up now at william.robinhood.com. That's william.robinhood.com. One more time, that's william.robinhood.com.
The Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, or JDRF, is the leading global organization funding type 1 diabetes research. Their mission is to accelerate life-changing breakthroughs to cure, prevent, and treat type 1 diabetes and its complications. Your Pie of Clemson is sponsoring a benefit night for JDRF on Wednesday, November 28th, and will match your donation dollar for dollar. And if you donate $10 or more, you will receive a free combo with your meal. Help fund research for type 1 diabetes at Your Pie of Clemson.
Hey Tiger fans, this is Michael Thacker with an update on Lakeside Lodge Clemson, Clemson's first condo hotel. Now under construction, Lakeside Lodge offers 1, 2, and 3-bedroom condos starting in the mid-200s. You can use it whenever you want and rent it when you're away. It's that easy. With top-notch amenities like housekeeping, food and beverage, service, and lake access, Lakeside Lodge will provide the ultimate Clemson experience. Hurry, because these condos are selling fast. Visit our sales office at 906 Clemson Boulevard next to Ruby Tuesday.
And now, back to Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Welcome back. Thanks for spending your Tuesday evening with us.
That's a good text.
It is. Man, we're getting, the phone lines are busy.
Can you imagine playing that game?
The phone is buzzing. We got a text in from the 864 right as we came back from break about a different idea he had for the playoff. Keep it at 4 teams, but make the 2 highest ranked teams not in a conference championship play each other on conference championship weekend.
That'd
qualifier.
Be Notre Dame and UCF.
I'd watch that game.
UCF has a conference championship game, don't they?
Technically they do, yeah. I was
Notre
thinking more Power 5.
Notre Dame and like Navy would be the only teams you'd have to worry about not playing a conference championship game.
BYU.
Well, we got to get back to the phone lines. Mark from Simpsonville is on with us, and no surprise here, he wants to talk more college football playoff. What you got for us, Mark?
Hey, guys. Just thinking, I know we're talking about the 4-team playoff right now, and I like to see them just make the criteria clear, and whether it be you got to win your conference or you whatever, make it more defined. And then if we do increase it to 8, I'm hearing all this stuff about removing a conference game, et cetera, but then you're catering to 8 teams, and what about the other 122 that don't get to play? And so they lose all that revenue of the additional game. So you can't really do that to them. I mean, it shortens the whole season for 122 other teams, and you're just catering to the 8 that do make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I do think the 8 is just what most people focus on, though. Like, the other 122, you want to keep it fair, but
you're not going to have 8 without decreasing the number of regular season games. You're just not going to happen. It's too many games.
But I think what's got to happen, and I know this is completely left field and would be a nightmare, but you do break it up into like divisions or territory, and so you could have Georgia, Alabama, Clemson all in the same division fighting it out every year. But, you have the whatever the number is of premiers, and you set it up kind of like the NFL, because the NFL couldn't have 130 teams trying to play for the Super Bowl. It's physically impossible. So you can't do it with college football either, not under that format.
Well, they do it with the FCS.
Everybody gets to still.
They do have an FCS playoff, which I believe starts with 32 teams.
Yeah.
30. Now, it does cut into the number of games that they're able to play regular season.
You know what I'd like to see? Just get rid of conferences as a whole and make everyone like Notre Dame and just go out and schedule whoever you want to schedule. I mean, I know
there's too much money involved.
There's a lot of money involved in that. That'd be kind of hard to redo the whole system we've got now.
Sure.
But heck, I mean, you want to see more non-conference games? You want to see Alabama go play Michigan? I mean, it could happen.
Right. And I mean, it's just like this. Let's say you force, let's say in this case with the 4 teams, okay, you have to win your conference championship. Alabama would have been out last year. Ohio State would have been out the year before that. Notre Dame would be out this year because you're not a conference champion. So it forces them to get in. Well, they're a partial member to the ACC. Now they have to play Clemson this year. Okay. So, just saying. So you've got a 2 and 3 seed team playing each other in the regular season. So it's going to knock one of those teams out. And right now they're both deserving if you do it by the numbers. So
I don't think you want to take out the human element too much. I think you still want to keep a little bit of subjectivity involved in this. You don't want to completely make it, just based on 4 points.
I mean,
exactly. You don't want the BCS
again, because we all, I think, collectively hated that system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think for right now, we're going to stick with the 4 teams. You may have a year where a independent, I mean, let's face it, let's be realistic here. There is only 1 or 2, really, in my opinion, one independent team who has a realistic shot of making the playoff when they go undefeated, and that's Notre Dame.
Right.
UCF is the only team, since I guess Boise State, and they didn't even play in the era of the college football playoff, that has not been in a Power 5 conference that has looked like they could possibly contend against Power 5 conference champions. So for right now, the 4-team playoff essentially is, hey guys, let's get to the end of the season. There's 5 conference champions, and whoever's in the weakest conference, quote unquote, gets left out. I mean, yes, you have outlier years where a team like Notre Dame gets in, but realistically, that's not going to happen every year.
Yeah, but it's just my personal opinion, but I think you can kind of see week to week once they start seeding, and even before that, just with the whole poll systems, that they'll rate a North Carolina State top 24 team the week they play Clemson, just so Clemson gets that little bit of strength of the schedule, but they haven't been ranked, the other 8 weeks of the year. You can see it. Now, I mean, you see it even with this right here, that they placed Georgia at number 4, and it's simply because if Georgia were to beat Alabama, then they're definitely moving up, and Alabama's probably not going to drop outside of the top 4. And
true, but do you really think Georgia's not the 4th best team in the country, though? I think everyone here probably believes they are.
I don't know that I would. I mean, I really don't. I think Ohio State's had so many distractions that maybe we haven't really seen the true Ohio State. And I'm not an Ohio State backer at all. But just saying, there's been so many distractions for that team that maybe they are one of the top 4 teams talent-wise, and if they decide they want to play, very deserving of that. But you can just see it. So then now, let's say Alabama takes care of business, then Georgia's going to drop out, and it's going to come down to the Oklahoma. And if it had stayed unblemished top 4 seeds, you know what would have happened after the conference championships? Alabama would have stayed 1. Clemson would have been 2. They would have moved Michigan over Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame would have dropped down to 4, and Michigan would not have had to play Alabama because they would not want that defensive, quote, great defensive matchup against Alabama in the first round. And that's just inevitable. They'd have said, Michigan went on to win the conference championship. Notre Dame didn't have to play, so that's why they move them up. I mean, you can just see it. I mean,
I don't think, like I said, I don't disagree with most of what you said. I just think for right now, for the next several years, you're probably going to see a 4-team. Maybe they expand it to 6. I don't really know.
Don't give me that bye
It'd be
week.
interesting. Hey, but hey, Mark, we do appreciate you taking the time to get in with us.
Yeah, no,
Great
I
talking to you.
appreciate it. Yeah. All right, you too. Have a good night.
Thanks. Evan, you were waving your finger at me. You want to say something?
If I may, couple of things. Number one, if you want to continue getting in on this college football playoff conversation, we've got a poll on our Twitter account at After Review Show. How many teams should make the college football playoff? Your choices are 4, 8, or other, and you should reply with your answer if that is your answer. Again, that's at After Review Show if you want to vote on our show poll. Secondly, I just saw it flash across the bottom of the screen here on my handy-dandy in-studio corner of the room TV. Notre Dame currently, according to FPI, has a higher percentage chance of making the college football playoff than Clemson. Clemson, right now as it stands, has a 90.
What's the percentage?
96% for Clemson, 99% chance Notre Dame makes the playoff.
Notre Dame's not playing a game. Like, if Notre Dame was playing...
Exactly.
I don't know, BYU in the Independence League championship game.
So do conference championships matter?
Yes.
No, because as we discussed before we even went on air, I believe it was in the car ride over here, conference championships for teams like Clemson can't help you. They can only hurt you.
Well, of course they can help you, though. Oklahoma probably needs to beat Texas to get in. Ohio State probably needs to beat Northwestern
Yeah,
to
but
get
those
in.
are teams with losses. An undefeated Clemson,
Okay, well, that's true.
undefeated Alabama. The only thing that they can get out of the conference championship is...
You sound like a 2015 Big 12 member right now.
And I think it's a completely legitimate argument, Evan. I mean, does the conference championship, because I'm looking here at the college football playoff website, okay? How are these teams determined? This is a direct quote. Strength of schedule, head-to-head results against common opponents, championships won, so that is thrown in there, and other factors.
Well, that sounds like, to me, that the college football playoff committee is using the transitive property if they're looking at head-to-head matchups against common opponents. But before we continue with this playoff discussion, separate playoff discussion, because somebody did mention the FCS playoffs. I counted, and I'm not the best at math, so somebody can double-check me, but there are 24 teams that make the FCS playoffs, and they are playing the second round this Saturday.
Wow.
So they're
How many
already
regular season games do they have? Do you know
10,
off the top of your head?
Is it 10?
I think it's
Is
10.
it 10?
Yeah.
Now they have conferences, so I'd imagine they've got probably 6 or 7 conference games littered in there with their 10 regular season games.
I believe it's 11 because right now North Dakota State as the 1 seed is sitting at 11-0. And they got a first-round bye. They're playing Montana State this Saturday.
Well, their money's going to talk, though. That's never going to happen. NCAA would never do that.
I'm not saying no.
NCAA would never do that.
How many games how many games would the eventual champion have to play? 16, 17?
14 to 15.
So let's
No, it'd be more than that.
let's say that North Dakota State wins the FCS national championship because at this point I don't know anything about any other team. Like, that just makes sense. So they get a first round bye. You play the second round, you play the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and then the championship. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 extra
That's
games.
15-0.
You go 15-0.
Now, if
So
you're
that's
a
the same
team
amount of games.
if you're a team that played in the first round, okay, let's say
What,
you
it'd be
played
11 games?
No, it'd be you've already
You just
played,
play one extra game. You just don't get
That's
that first round
16.
bye. So 16.
That's 16 games. That's
Wow.
that's what they're going to cap it. They're just not going to let teams play 17 games.
See,
But that's only one team, though.
Well-
Remember, that's only one team.
But is it fair for the best team to play the most games?
Well, if you want to win the championship, then you will play the most games. It happens in the FBS right now, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, with Notre Dame, maybe not, but most of the time.
I'm just saying, if I'm Notre Dame and I'm sitting here and I'm at 3 and
I'm feeling good about myself
yeah,
this
and I'm not
weekend.
playing in a conference championship, I'm
You're
sitting here
sitting pretty.
laughing. I'm laughing at everybody else going, what are you doing?
I'm packing my bathing suit for Miami right now is what I'm
But
doing.
if I'm Oklahoma, though, I'm saying, well, I need that conference.
I got to beat Texas again.
No,
Well, exactly. So-
Oklahoma just needs Georgia to lose.
But
Yes,
they also
need to beat Texas.
they also need to beat
Yes,
Texas, though.
Yes.
Here's my thing, and I wish we had more time to jump into this, but I personally am a fan of the 4-team.
I love the
setup.
4-team.
If the playoff was going to expand at all, let's move it to 6. I think 8 is ridiculous. I think that's too many. I think you're giving 3 at-large bids. You're looking at letting in basically a 3-loss LSU team in right now,
Or Florida.
or
Don't even talk about that.
UCF's sitting at 8 right now. Florida 9, LSU 10. But
Yeah.
still, the fact that you reward a 3-loss team with a chance to win the national championship is absolutely asinine. Because several years back, when LSU beat Alabama in the national championship and they had 2 losses, people all over were complaining about how they should never have been there in the first place. So a 3-loss team should never have a crack at a national national championship. It shouldn't be 18.
No, exactly.
Separate
And
discussion.
look at the last 4 years we've had the playoff. This is the 5th year right now. Have we really had a problem with the 4 teams that have gotten in?
Only this year because, as we pointed out with the most recent caller, Notre Dame is in the mix. And Notre Dame
But
is
that's the first year this has happened.
Exactly. And Notre Dame is the only independent that is truly going to ruffle feathers within the top
If you want to make
teams.
the
Now,
playoff,
UCF, yes, people will talk about it, but Notre Dame's your only shot.
yeah, if you want to make the playoff, 90% of the years, only lose one game, win your conference championship, don't have a big loss. That's literally all you have to do. If you do that, you're probably deserving of being in the top 4. If you don't, you're
if
not.
they expand the playoff to 6 teams, they would.
That's
they would,
stupid.
They
No.
would, no, if they did,
6
just
teams
hear
is
me out.
fine.
They
You
would
give a
have to
bye
give.
week.
They have to give the bye week to
teams 1 and 2. Yep.
and then 3 would play 6, 4 would play 5, because that way everyone would cap at 15. Correct?
I would hate to see a team get a bye week.
You'd have 16 if you were a lower seed.
Well, because but look at like the 2 and the 3 seed though. If you're going to give the top 2 teams a bye week, if you're the 3 seed and you legitimately had a good argument to be the 2 seed, you got to play an entirely extra game.
Well,
now.
and that's why I say I wish we had more time to hash this out, because we're not going to solve all the college football playoffs problems here in the next 30 seconds. But in theory, making the playoff is as easy as Al Davis said. Just win, baby.
This was a hit topic.
Except for UCF.
We, like I said, the phone lines have been buzzing all night. The texts have been just coming, and we really appreciate everyone getting in and offering their takes. Don't forget to hit us up on Twitter. Evan mentioned it earlier, at After Review Show. We've got a poll going. A lot of people have replied, so we appreciate you getting your opinion in on Twitter. But that's it. We're out of time. Jay Smith, Bradley Kendall, Evan McDowell. Always fun bringing you another edition of After Further Review. We'll see you next time.